Hey, hi guys, welcome back to my series of rapid games where I'll be talking you through the games, and win, lose or draw, we will always have a look at the analysis afterwards. So we'll start this game with d4, and again we're going to get into another Queen's Gambit. This time we have a Queen's Gambit declined again. Okay, so this time let's go for a Catalan. Let's go knight here and then pawn to g3. Okay, we have to move bishop to g2. This is all fairly standard castles. Often black will take this pawn, and then white will play queen to c2, which is the main line in this variation. Knight c6. So this one is not so common. Usually black will play a6 and the pawn up to b5. So with the move knight c6, he's attacking this pawn. If I take it, most likely he's going to go queen d5 to try and offer an exchange of queens. Now I could take the pawn, and after queen d5 move my queen back. That would be fairly normal. I also like this move rook d1, which is not often played, but it can put opponents off quite a bit, and we're going to try this one. If he plays the move pawn to b5, we can often go the move knight to e5. So we'll see what he does. But it's his thinking, so we've definitely put him into something that he hasn't expected, which is always good. Often in the Catalan, in these variations where the pawn's on e6, black will struggle to sort of develop this bishop on c8. So my main goal here is to really keep that bishop locked in. The difference here, I suppose, is that if he plays a6 after queen takes c4, he's going to have a bit more trouble trying to play the move pawn to b5. He also has this move knight to b4, which I need to watch out for, but after queen takes c4, it should be okay. He can try to play c5 afterwards, since my rook is undefended. That could be something worth trying, but either way he'll still have the problem of how to develop this light squared bishop afterwards. So apart from that, I'm not sure what else he can really do. I mean, if he goes knight a5, the knight's not going to be very well placed. I always have knight e5. He could play rook b8. This is an option. After rook b8, he is threatening to play the move pawn to b5, and it sidesteps the pin, but again, I just take the pawn whenever he does that. So I quite like my position here. If he tries to defend everything with the move queen to d5, then it looks like he's walking into some discoveries there with the knight. So if queen d5, knight e5 would be the obvious move, but then maybe as knight takes d4, it's a little bit complicated. So after maybe queen d5 is the move, even though it looks a little bit strange to put the queen on this square. Okay, so he went for knight b4, so our plan is to take the pawn. And then b5. Okay, so yeah, this is an idea which is quite common in a lot of these positions, but I didn't think he would play b5 right away in this position. So we do have to be a little bit careful here, because after queen takes, he does have to move knight to c2. But then we have moves like knight e5. So yeah, this is a little bit complicated. So let's have a look. So if queen takes, then what can he play? So knight c2, I play the move knight to e5. So if he takes my rook, I take his rook. Otherwise his rook doesn't have any squares to really go to. He could play the move knight to d5 in that position. And then what can I do there? I do have this move queen to c6, hitting the knight on c2 and hitting the rook on a8 and getting a fork. I'll most likely win one of those pieces back. That does look pretty good for me. So if I take here, if he chases me, I just come back to a4. That doesn't do him any good. If I take it and he goes bishop a6, that could be an option for him. But then I go queen to a4. Bishop takes pawn. I play rook e1. I don't feel like he should give up his bishop. So yeah, he probably doesn't want to do this because then the bishop might be kind of stuck. I also have a feeling that's okay for me. So I think the only way to refute this sacrifice is to take. If I go queen back to b3, then he has moves like a5, a4, which can be very annoying. I can even just play bishop here, bishop here. My queen is somewhat misplaced. If I go to c3, I get hit by knight e4 in a lot of positions. So, okay, we're going to try and refute this gambit. So we're just going to take the pawn and see what happens. Okay, so knight c2, that was expected. I also have this move queen to c6 right away, which I also should have mentioned. I just thought throwing in knight e5 might be a good way, but now that I look at it again, maybe queen c2, queen c6 right away might be a better option. Because if we provoke the knight to get to d5, I'm not sure if we have any, we gain anything from that. Okay, so queen c6, knight takes rook, queen takes rook, the pawn's hanging, the knight's sort of misplaced. Knight e5, he's probably going to play knight d5. Okay, I think I go queen c6 right away, just because I want to hit the rook right away. So he takes the rook, I take his rook. Now he's offering a queen trade. Okay, so materially we're doing fine. If we take here, he's going to take here, so he's going to get some counterplay. But why can't we just take it? We'll just be a pawn up, right? So if we take here, rook takes, play knight c3. This must be a little bit better for us. Or we can try to trap the knight, but I don't want to give up this pawn. It's quite strong. So I'm gonna trade. I'm gonna play knight c3, which is, I think, the most sensible move. Now the question is, can we trap this knight? So the knight has this retreat to go to, but when it goes to c2, can we play the move pawn to a3 to try and trap it? Okay, so he plays with this move pawn to c5, makes sense. Okay, so the bishop should obviously develop. And move it to g5, threatening pawn takes. Or bishop to f4. He's going to play knight c2 next move. I could also play e3 just to defend the pawn, but bishop g5, h6. Do I have to give up the bishop as well? I'm not sure I want to give up the bishop. I also have knight e5, knight c6 ideas. Yeah, I do want to move my knight to e5 though. I sort of just want to shore up this pawn. So part of me wants to go, part of me just wants to play this to protect that pawn. I think this is a passive move, but I'm just going to protect the pawn, see what he does. This way at least I can move my knight to e5 next move. Yeah, so he plays this move, which I was sort of expecting. But now I think I can play knight to e5, which is what I wanted. And now if pawn takes, at least I can play knight c6. We're playing 10-5 by the way, which is a little bit quicker than normally because we couldn't get a game of 15-10. That's why we're a little bit down on time. Okay, so knight to b4, I play a3. So once the knight moves, we play the move knight to c6. So I suppose we take it. Knight comes back, we can always defend with bishop e3. We also have knight c6. Yeah, so this move, I think it's just knight c6. Okay, so we can exchange a pair of knights. We also have this move knight here. Does that work? Okay, so we also have what happens after takes. Do we have any tricky move there? So I want to go takes, knight b8, rook here, bishop takes, pawn takes, bishop f4, but then the rook can go to e6. Yeah, it doesn't quite work. I can also bishop g5. I'm spending way too much time, by the way. Yeah, but bishop g5 is another move. Spending way too much time. I think we're just going to take this. So now knight b8 doesn't work because he has rook to d6. I want to take this. Can I play some prophylactic move? Yeah, I want to take that. Okay, can I play some sneaky move like rook e1, threatening some back ranks? Okay, I don't know if this is necessarily a good move, but down on time, so let's just go for... Okay, so I think our trick works now. So we go knight b8, and the idea was that after rook d6 we take the bishop, and then rook takes, we take the knight, and then we have like back rank mating threats there. So I take here. So if you're not sure what to do, just try to make a threat with each of your moves. Okay, so now he can't take the rook because of the back rank, so he's probably going to have to take the pawn on d4, but the knight can always escape. Yeah, so he didn't take it, so I suppose we can just take here. Do we want to keep the bishop? Does it really matter? Okay, I'll just take. It's just easier. Okay, so I'll play my knight back to b4 now. Then I just put my rook on e2, bishop to e3, and we should be good. So I mean, overall, his idea with b5 was actually quite clever. It seemed like, reminded me of the World Championship match, the one recent one, Magnussen and Pomniachtchi played, where there was also that b5 in the Catalan. I think the problem here is just a little bit unlucky that White had this move, knight to c6, queen to c6. But we'll try and convert this in as cleanly as possible. Yeah, so I think bishop has to go here. Otherwise I just play rook d2 and trade rooks. Yeah, so he's threatening check. Maybe actually no, he's not really threatening check either. So I could just move the king. I'll play bishop d2, hitting the pawn. Yeah, so takes, I take here. Yeah, so rook here. Simplest one is just to trade rooks. So we'll play rook d2 because of the back rank mate. And then we just push our pass pawn. Okay, so let's have a quick look at that. So we're going to analysis. I'm not sure if rook d1 is actually the best move theoretically there. Probably it's just queen takes c4, but we'll have a look. So let's go to master's database. So we have our Catalan position. Then knight c6. Yeah, so this one is incorrect. And yeah, just queen takes c4 is the most played move in this position. See what the engine says. Queen takes c4, yeah. But rook d1 can't be that bad either. So yeah, rook d1 is also absolutely fine in a lot of these Catalan positions. Even you can sacrifice a pawn, and it should be fine for white in a lot of these positions. So takes, e5 was a move. So the idea given by the engine to try and get the bishop outside the pawn chain is to play e5 here. And after knight takes e5, go bishop e6, queen c3, knight takes a2. Okay, queen to d2, knight takes c1, rook takes c1. Okay, so this is the computer's idea of bringing the bishop out, and this is close to equalizing pretty much. And really, I guess the downside is that you get the open a file and semi-open c file, but at least you got the bishop outside the pawn chain. So this would have been okay for black, but e5 is a hard move to spot. Whereas b5, yeah, queen takes b5. Yeah, I think bishop a6 was the best move. Queen a4, then this, and yeah, we're going to play either rook e1 or the other option was rook to d2. But it doesn't like rook e1 for some reason because of bishop d3. But if rook to d2, bishop takes. Okay, so we win the bishop pair in this variation, but we lose a little bit control over the center. But I still quite like white's position here because we get the light squared bishop, so that wasn't a big concern. But yeah, this one is a mistake because after the move queen c6, then we pick up the rook, and yeah, now white should be winning the rest of the game. But it reckons we should take on a7 instead, and after this, rook to d2, bishop b5, knight c3. Okay, so it quite likes this position because the black knight is somewhat trapped, but we went for a much simpler variation because I thought we were just a pawn up anyway. Yeah, it's pretty much around the same advantage for white, and yeah, I think the rest of the game was absolutely fine. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next game.